quite unusual for any political party to at one go 6 of their senior leaders stepping down from the leadership of the Politburo after having suffered a grievous blow in the sudden death of our General Secretary, Comrade Sitaram Yechuri. That when we take a decision, we make sure that the leaders who took that decision or led the decision implement it when it comes to themselves. So we had a discussion about it, and we are confident that because of the organizational norms and practices of a communist party, the collective leadership, which could overcome the huge crisis of the sudden death of its top leader, Comrade Sitaram Yechuri, has the strength and has new leaders who can take the party forward. This is not a high command party, Nelu. This has never been a high command party. This is not decided by some central parliamentary committee like the Congress or the BJP. No, not at all. The candidates for the party, where they stand, is decided at the state and district level. Okay. It's not a high command party. So that is not an issue at all. Okay. Our issue is how to build struggles, how to mobilize people. You have an environment in which the issues which really matter to the people get clouded by this political cultural framework of the BJP-RSS, of this so-called Hindutva identity. And this seems to cloud all other issues. Now, because of the overarching national need to have a broad unity against what the BJP-RSS is doing to this country and the country's constitution and the country's history, it is essential, as far as possible, within the reality of diversity, to at least come to some understanding of maximizing our strength against the BJP wherever it is possible. That policy will continue after this party's national conference. We are very clear about that. We are very clear about the need for broader unity at different levels, but it cannot be done at the cost of one's own independent strength. On the contrary, it is only by increasing the strength of the left and the party that we can ensure there is no compromise with the BJP-RSS.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Amidst this politics of BJP versus Congress, have you ever thought, how is the Communist Party of India Marxist trying to revive itself? Recently, there was a party Congress in which former minister and two-time Rajya Sabha MP, Mr. M.A. Baby, was appointed in place of Sitaram Yechuri. And that was an important position. People still are discussing whether Mr. M.A. Baby will be able to fill in the shoes of Sitaram Yechuri. But the larger questions before the CPIM: how does it bring about a generational shift? What are the challenges ahead of the party, given the fact that Kerala now is the last bastion and, of course, the only bastion for the left? How does it expand its footprints? How does it make itself more popular and more appealing amongst the youths? So we'll try and look at all those answers. Joining me now this evening is a very special guest, veteran left leader Brinda Karat joins us this evening. Thank you so much, Brinda ma'am, for joining on HW, and it's really a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you, Neelu.
Uh, my first question, and I'll of course begin with the question that Mr. M.A. Baby is now the party boss, and many people feel that is this a generational shift, because we've seen the older generation, which of course includes Subhashini Ali, you, Prakash sir, the old guards, the veterans whom we all looked up to, and the left office. They are not at the helm of affairs. So, what is the kind of hope now which Mr. M.A. Baby brings for CPIM?
Thank you so much for asking all these important questions. They are very relevant questions because it's quite unusual for any political party to, at one go, six of their senior leaders stepping down from the leadership of the Politburo after having suffered a grievous blow in the sudden death of our General Secretary, Comrade Sitaram Yechuri. Now, in the last party conference, when Comrade Sitaram was at the helm, we had taken a decision, a constitutional change, and fixing an age limit at 75. So there were many in the party and also outside who felt that in such a situation, it may not be possible to implement the constitutional amendment in the present situation. But this is the strength of the collective of a communist party. And I am so proud that I belong to such a party that when we take a decision, we make sure that the leaders who took that decision or led the decision implement it when it comes to themselves. So we had a discussion about it, and we are confident that because of the organizational norms and practices of a communist party, the collective leadership, which could overcome the huge crisis of the sudden death of its top leader, Comrade Sitaram Yechuri, has the strength and has new leaders who can take the party forward. So we are confident that the new, and by the way, he's not appointed, he's an elected general secretary.
Yes.
So we have an elected general secretary, Comrade Baby. And your second question about a generational shift, I would say that there is a leadership shift. I mean, Comrade Baby is, I think, 70 years old, and he's been in the leadership of many mass organizations. He led the students, the youth. He's been a minister in government. He's served 2 terms in the Rajya Sabha. So he does bring a great national experience to the post that he holds now. And he is supported by a team of Politburo colleagues who are very experienced in struggle. Now, for example, the 2 women who replaced Subhashini and me, Mariam Dhavle, she has been a whole time of the party for how many, 30 or 40 years, or even more perhaps, right when she was a young student. She is a Muslim girl who coming from Maharashtra, and she broke many barriers to come into left politics. And she has been a wonderful example of how a young woman in the Communist Party plays various roles. She's worked among Adivasis, she's worked among women, she's done party work. And so she is absolutely capable of being in the leading body of the party. Similarly, Comrade Vati from Tamil Nadu, she's been in the movement for decades, and she has taken very important party responsibilities in Tamil Nadu, and she's been deeply involved in social movements. And therefore, both these women are more than capable of being in the leading bodies of the party. Then we have, as a new member, a young Yeah, when you say generational shift, yes, there are two or three comrades in the Politburo now who are definitely of a much younger generation, who have come in through the student movement, through the Kisan movement, and through party work. So I think we have a very strong collective at the center of the old and the new.
Right.
And so I'm very positive about taking this forward.
Yeah, but before I start talking to you about the future roadmap of CPIM, I would also want to know from you that what is going to be the role of the old guard, which includes you, which includes Prakash Karat, Subhashini Ali. So many of you are there, and as you said, that six of you have just sidestepped. So, what is going to be your role in BJP's parlance, as they say that okay, if you're beyond 75, you go to the Margdarshak Mandal, but that's an abominable word when you look at it from when you look at the term from the BJP's lens. But in terms of CPIM, since the constitutional structure of the party is so strong at the center, and with veterans like you providing so much of support, so what is going to be the role,
Well,
the exact
well,
role of
now
those?
the immediate decisions which I can tell you about is one, Comrade Manik Sarkar, who was the former Chief Minister of Tripura. He continues to be in the Tripura leadership. He was recently, we gave him an exemption for Tripura, given the particular situation in Tripura. So he continues to play a leading role in Tripura to help the new leadership come. We have taken the secretary of the Tripura State Committee, very a comrade with great experience, a tribal comrade, Comrade Jitendra Chaudhary, who also happens to be the leader of the opposition in Tripura. He will now come into the Politburo, but Comrade Manik Sarkar will continue to play a very important role in Tripura, helping the new team and being part of the team. As far as those of us working at the center are concerned, we will be functioning from the party center in whatever supportive role is required of us. So, all these decisions, depending on what is required from the party center, we will be playing a role staying on in the party center as a strong support team for the new leadership.
So,
And
as far as of the movements is concerned, deciding on the candidates who will contest on the field, so all of that, you all will be taking a central role as far as those things are concerned.
no, this is not a high command party, Nelu. This has never been a high command party.
Hmm.
This is not decided by some central parliamentary committee like the Congress or the BJP. No, not at all. The candidates for the party, where they stand, is decided at the state and district level.
Okay.
It's not a high command party.
Hmm.
So that is not an issue at all.
Okay.
Our issue is how to build struggles, how to mobilize people, how to
Right.
fight for justice. Our entire focus is unlike the other parties who, you may be familiar with, who move from one election to another election. That
Right.
is not the CPIM. That is not the communists.
Right. But Brinda ma'am, there is no dearth of issues currently. You call it price rise, you call it unemployment, any number of issues, you name it, and they exist. And Modi government has not been able to tackle with those issues, and neither has Congress been able to, come up with a movement, except for one farmers agitation, which we saw. It went on for a long time, and then ultimately Modi
By the
government had to.
way, if you don't mind my interrupting you,
Yes, ma'am.
Congress had nothing to do with the farmers' agitation.
Hmm.
They supported it. They
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the agitation.
Right.
Our Kisan Sabha and our leaders, in fact, one of both the two main leaders from our side, Comrade Ashok Dhavle, who's the president of the Kisan Sabha, and Viju Krishan, who's a general secretary, now they are both in the Politburo of the party. So we
That.
have so no, my point, what the point I was making is that, as you were saying, that there are no dearth of issues, but you didn't complete what you wanted to follow up that way. you
I
were
was yeah, I was wanting to ask you that since the entire responsibility of coming up with the struggle movement lies on the left, and I think Congress also depends on the left quite a bit on that, because let's be honest about it. So now, how do you start the movement? Now, is there dearth of funds? How do you begin a struggle? Whether it is a farmers' issue, whether it is the women's issue, any issue you pick up, and supposing if you want to begin with a strong movement. Now, say, for example, on the electoral democracy bit, now everywhere there are reports that elections have been rigged. They are scientifically being rigged, and what we have seen in West Bengal that the epic numbers also have been manipulated. So, are you thinking of starting few movements, and is there an introspection in the left party like yours that what are those movements which you will soon want to begin with?
I think that's a very relevant question because in the party conference that we have just completed in Madurai, which is the peg for this interview, in fact, that is exactly what was deeply discussed there. What are the strategies? What
Yes.
we have come to the conclusion that, price rise has always been an issue. It's, of course, much more aggressive now because what is really happening is you have an environment in which the issues which really matter to the people get clouded by this political cultural framework of the BJP-RSS, of this so-called Hindutva identity. And this seems to cloud all other issues. Now,
True.
this is something which is a reality. And in many of these discussions at the party conference of introspection, as to why are we unable to convert support in mass struggles to political support, what is there? And one of the issues which came up was in the last 10 years, the division created by the RSS BJP on religious grounds. So, this is a reality which we are seeing again and again. So, you have farmers' issues, you have working class issues. We are heading for a big general strike on May 20th of workers who are fighting for their minimum wages and against the four labor codes. So there's going to be a huge working class action. But what happens when workers go home to their residential areas from the factory gate? That is where this Hindutva identity building of a very sectarian understanding of religion, which divides people, is something which the left is confronting and which has to be one of the main areas of strategizing. It's
But
not just election.
yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And what you said is absolutely correct that you cannot spend your entire strength on just fighting the RSS ideology because there are so many issues which you have to deal with. You have to build a movement. So how do you plan to do it, ma'am? I mean, where do we see a start? And from where, like you said, the 20th May, you're going to begin with a workers' movement and you're going to have a huge strike. That, of course, could be one beginning because May is not far off. But which are the other movements which are in the offing, and which are those issues which you would really want to pick up with in the next few months?
I think a very important issue which was highlighted in the conference, two aspects. One is of the rural poor. When we talk about farmers and we talk about farmers' agitations, very often the actual plight of poor rural people, the poor, the agricultural workers, the landless, the manual laborers. Now, even Manrega is being denied. And there's acute distress in the rural areas today among the rural poor because of no employment, terrible position of rural youth. So, that is definitely one area where we can see much more activity from the left. The other areas among youth, Because if you look at the actual plight of youth, it's so far removed from all these huge Karni Seva mobilizations in the name of caste. Either it's Karni Seva or it's some Maharaja, Raja, and something to do with that. Nobody's
Rana
talking
Sanga.
about.
Rana
I
Sanga.
know his name. I know his name, but I deliberately didn't mention his name because it's not just one Rana Sangha. It's
Yeah,
a whole culture which wants to promote Raja Maharajas as the epitome of patriotism, which they never were.
true. Very
But
true.
anyway, I'm not going into that right now. What I'm saying is these tactics of the BJP diverting the youth, I think this issue of a cultural intervention from the left with an alternative vision, I think we have been really, uh, we have been caught, quite frankly, on the back foot on so many of these issues. So, how to integrate cultural aspects with class struggle and social struggle, I think this is one of the biggest challenge that we face today.
But another challenge, which I presume, and I'm sure you would be able to shed more light on it, is that how do you make left more appealing for the younger generations, and how does the youth of the country ally itself with the left? Uh, is that a big challenge before the party?
You know, when we came into the movement as young people, there was the dream of a real socialism and an alternative, a just alternative. Now, with all the international developments which have taken place over the last, since the 90s and the collapse of the Soviet Union, that appeal of socialism had dimmed, particularly with the whole aggression of, capitalism and neoliberal policies and new cultures, etc., etc. But I think that is where there is a resurgence of interest among the youth across student campuses, across castes, the youth who are looking for an alternative vision. And I think we have to reimagine socialism in Indian conditions and in the Indian context. And I think it is that socialist alternative which can be and will be, I'm confident, the lodestar to attract young people once again, because it really has to be an ideological attraction. It's all based on the mind, on the thinking, on the vichar, and also the heart, of course. Don't think I could ever have been in politics without the heart to understand what exploitation really is.
Right. But I'm also interested in knowing from you, Brinda ma'am, is that, what are those new kind of changes which the left is wanting to bring in itself? Now, say, for example, there were inhibitions regarding the use of social media earlier. We've interviewed Sitaram so also many times and earlier, previously, and he did admit in those interviews that, yes, there was a lot of inhibition and we had to change our thinking. So I'm really wanting to know from you that in the recent party congress which you had, what are those new kind of ideas which you are looking at so that you can
Well, of course,
re-engage?
there was a very important discussion on artificial intelligence, for example, and
Yes.
how artificial intelligence is being used for a surveillance state. So
Yeah.
that was one area which is really quite dangerous to democracy and the possibilities of manipulation of public opinion through artificial intelligence. But at the same time, there was a very good discussion as to how artificial intelligence can be used as a technological tool to take our message to a much larger audience.
Yeah.
So those were
So
things
now
which
that inhibition, so that inhibition now is not there. You can all your party
I think what
CPIM.
you're
Can all,
talking, frankly, I think you're talking about several decades ago because, I mean, our social media has been around for quite a long time, not doing too badly because we depend on volunteers. We don't have, the paid armies that the BJP has and all the bots that the BJP has the money to manufacture. So we
yes.
don't work like that. But still, I think we have a pretty healthy and robust um, but yet inadequate, very inadequate social media presence. But the point is, how do you step it up with new technologies? And because the algorithms now, which are being used by all the usual social media groups like Facebook, etc., that doesn't allow you to promote left ideologies. But
Absolutely.
of course, it's a fact that you have to pay now to be on anybody's news feed. So all those problems are there. So we have to see how we can use new technologies to break those barriers. And I think the left has got some of the brightest minds. So I think we just have to put them to work.
Right. So now coming back to the question of India alliance. Now, how is left going to ally itself with parties like Congress? We did see how Mr. Yechuri functioned, and we never, during his times, we never actually realized the difference between Congress and CPIM. It was so well intertwined into each other. Any problem of Congress, we saw Congress leaders reaching out to Mr. Yechuri, and it was vice versa from his end as well. Now, with Mr. Baby at the helm of affairs, how do you think can he reach out? And are we going to see that kind of a symbiotic relationship which we saw earlier?
Well, I mean, thank you for all the compliments, but for Comrade Sitaram. But I don't think Comrade Sitaram himself would have described it as a symbiotic relationship at all, because Comrade Sitaram was representing a collective understanding of the party in his relationship with the Congress. And you will remember it was during his period of general secretaryship where we had the most bitter fight with the Congress in Kerala. So those
Yes.
are the realities of Indian politics. You can't get away from that. So it doesn't really depend entirely on how an individual is, though I do believe that individuals play a very, very important role. But there are things which go beyond individuals into objective political conditions of political diversity which exist in India. So each state has their own set of leaders. For example, in Bihar, long before India Bloc was formed, you already had an alliance under the leadership of the RJD. In Tamil Nadu, long before the India Alliance was formed, India Platform, you had an alliance, you had a platform under the leadership of the DMK. Like that, in Bengal, the CPM and the TMC, right from 2011 and even before, when the TMC was a close ally of the BJP, we have had very severe differences which continue. But despite all that, because of the overarching national need to have a broad unity against what the BJP-RSS is doing to this country and the country's constitution and the country's history, it is essential, as far as possible, within the reality of diversity, to at least come to some understanding of maximizing our strength against the BJP wherever it is possible. That policy will continue after this party's national conference. We are very clear about that. We are very clear about the need for broader unity at different levels, but it cannot be done at the cost of one's own independent strength. On the contrary, it is only by increasing the strength of the left and the party that we can ensure there is no compromise with the BJP RSS.
Absolutely. No, but how easy or how challenging that is going to be? Because what we saw in Delhi recently in the Delhi elections,
Yes.
there was no unity in the India alliance, and which is why BJP had a field day and they won with such a huge mandate. Now, will this kind of a unity be seen in Bihar? Will we see this kind of a unity in Kerala? Kerala, of course, you and your party and Congress,
I
they
mean,
are almost
both in
arch.
let's be very clear. Both, see, the main thing is how to defeat the BJP and what its attempts to grow in states where they are not there. Now, in Kerala, undoubtedly, the LDF is at present in government and is playing the most important, uncompromising fight against the BJP RSS. Now, if other parties who are there want to target the LDF instead of targeting the BJP, that's not going to be acceptable. Now, when you come to Delhi and AAP is in government and you prefer to target AAP instead of the BJP, that's not what's going to help fight the BJP. So I think those parties who take that position and target regional parties or a party which is in power in a state, which is part of the India Bloc, and forget that the main fight continues to be against the BJP-RSS, I think that those parties require introspection.
Kerala elections are next year, so and where Congress and your party are almost like arch rivals now, and BJP is also clawing at its best to get some kind of a foothold in that state. Now, how challenging will that job be for Mr. M.A. Baby to balance out all these forces and
No,
also
I don't.
ensure your parties win?
No, I don't think there's any balance required there because we're very clear that left is in the best position and has been in the best position to fight the BJP RSS. So any other forces in Kerala, it depends on them whether they recognize that reality or not. And if they choose, instead of fighting the BJP RSS, to fight the LDF, well, then that's not much we can do about it. And in Bihar, I think the RJD is in a very strong position, and left parties in Bihar have been working very, very hard against this Nitish Kumar's total betrayal and his allying with the BJP and accepting all the policies of the BJP, which are very bad for Bihar, without getting anything for Bihar. Where's a special package for Bihar? It's zero. I mean, you can give a Makhana mission, but where's the special package? So let's get real. So I think in Bihar, it's going to be a very strong assertion of the secular democratic forces to defeat the BJP and its allies.
What about every party has its own share of internal wranglings within their party structures? And when Mr. Baby was elected, at that time, everybody was talking about the fact that, look, the Kerala unit weighed heavily on the Bengal unit, though they wanted that, somebody from Bengal should have become the general secretary. But then ultimately, it was Mr. M.A. Baby who was chosen from Kerala or was elected from Kerala. Now, what about those internal party differences? Have they been ironed out? Or is that a big challenge for Mr. Baby? How to, listen to everyone and then do something which is there for the benefit of the party?
The media has a wonderful habit of manufacturing things and then believing in what they've manufactured gets a life of its own. In fact, in our party and in our history, it is always based on some political aspect that there are discussions and debates and sometimes differences. This party Congress was a Congress of unity in the sense that every single amendment which was moved to the resolution put by the Central Committee was only to strengthen what was already being said. So there were zero political differences. And that is the basis for the unity. So there are no internal wranglings, quote unquote, at all. Absolutely not. And I can say that with utmost confidence.
Absolutely. One last question, ma'am, before I wind up the interview. And media has a habit of projecting issues. Then there are parties which love to remain in the headlines, and every day they work on a headline management. What about that headline management part of the left? When are we going to see that big event, which probably could get some media attraction?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of media attraction you're talking about, but I don't think it's really required, Neelu, because these are just one-day events. They really don't have a lasting impact.
True.
And in fact, it has it's very often a contrary effect. So I think we really have to get away from headlines and really get to the substance of the story. And
True.
headlines are often very misleading because you read a headline and then you find that headline is nothing to do with the real story. So we
True.
are people with real stories. And I think that is what we have to concentrate on because that
So,
is our strength.
right. So, am I to understand that the CPIM will continue to work silently and the strong undercurrents will be felt in course of time?
No, 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 not at all. We are never silent. We are very vocal, and we will continue to be vocal. We will continue to be strong in our resistance to injustice at every level. And I think that is the meaning of the red flag. It's a flag which is colored by the blood of our martyrs, and starting with Bhagat Singh, who, as you know, was a socialist and a communist.
True.
And that is the color of our flag. So I don't think there's any question of working silently. We do work silently, but we also fight very vocally.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure talking to you. Wish you all the
Thank
best.
you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
ever so much.